Okay, welcome to 5 Minutes with Stephanie. Stephanie she committed up front to doing 1 year of one-on-one nutrition coaching with Digital Barbell, and I was lucky enough to be her coach. We're actually not done yet, but welcome to 5 Minutes with Stephanie.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so first thing I got to ask is, why did you want to do this?
Why did oh my gosh. I would be honest and say I was kind of I think post COVID, just wasn't feeling all that confident in my own skin. And so I was feeling like I needed to kind of address moving forward with kind of like a fat loss phase. I think I'd gotten to a point where I just needed to have some guidance in that piece. But I committed to the full year because I didn't want to just diet. I
Hmm.
didn't want that just to be the goal. I wanted to learn how to do maintenance. I wanted to just kind of learn the steps, not only first with the fat loss, but then maintenance. But it was just being able to learn the steps in each phase was probably my ultimate goal in the end.
And you have an interest in this stuff too. You've actually gone through precision nutrition and have toyed with the idea of coaching other people too, right?
Yes, it's still there in the back of my mind. Maybe 2023 will be the year that I jump into it. So we'll see.
Yeah, cool. So, okay, next thing I got to ask is we're 10 months into this, 12 months, if I'm not mistaken. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen, but physically, but also mentally, because that's been a big part of our time together too.
Yeah, for sure. Mentally, I think, like I said, I went into it like, oh, fat loss. Like that was my ultimate, goal in the beginning. But it's definitely shifted. I know we've had a lot of conversations, especially with the mindset piece of it. I was surprised at how much I have loved maintenance. I've heard other people say this where they talk about maintenance as home. Like the fat loss phase is like, oh, it's when you go on vacation. So learning that piece, I mean, it was definitely a switch because I think too, especially as women, we're always chasing that like fat loss and always like dieting. But maintenance has been great and definitely my go-to phase.
That's a big shift that you've had is going into this with maybe one goal in mind. We had a specific set of goals that you wanted to accomplish, and we've spent a lot of time with you thriving in maintenance. So that makes sense.
I think that too. And then also learning along the way, as far as like, I never thought having food off limits when I first started my own fitness journey, but kind of realizing that there was kind of that in the background. So learning how to prioritize food. So nothing was ever off limits. So just knowing that, like, if I wanted, say, for instance, we love Chipotle. If I eat at Chipotle, being able to prioritize, like, yes, today I want chips. So the rest of my day kind of looks a little different, where I might pull back on breakfast or lunch, or maybe if I have a burrito bowl, I only have half because I want to prioritize the chips. So those kind of things along the way that I've learned
I
that are
love that.
habits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I'll be able to
Prioritizing the
use.
food. That is such a good concept for people to hear. Just like how you explained it, to like wrap their brain around, okay, I can have all of these things, but I need to prioritize them. I'm going to have to take something away if I'm going to have
Hmm.
this. I love it.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of conversations about priorities
Yeah.
because that word has already come up several times. And like, I think they'll enjoy foods that they think of as quote bad, and they don't even get to enjoy them because they go into it with the
Yeah.
wrong
You're
priority.
right.
They don't think ahead of time, like, hey, and you and I have gone through periods where like this meal, fat loss is not the priority.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about how that has been part of our journey.
I'll give a real live example. So today we decided we were going to have family night. We're going to do board games and the kids want to order pizza. And so I think a lot of times that can be perceived as like, oh no, pizza is bad. And it's not. And for me, the priority is like, okay, I'm going to sit, I'm going to enjoy with my family. I'm going to have a slice of pizza. And it's not like that. For me, that's not the priority. I think I had said this too earlier in a check-in, like the priority for me when I went out and had a date with my son, he picked a sandwich shop and I went and we had a sandwich and chips. Like nothing about it was bad because my priority at the time was him and the one-on-one time. But just that mind, I think people get stuck in that mindset of, like you said, like good and bad. Like there's different ways you can approach it. And I think that's been a biggest shift for me, knowing that now that can be a habit. Because I think anybody can die, like anybody can eat broccoli and asparagus with chicken, like bland food. But if you don't address that mindset shift and those habits, the habit of prioritizing could be an example, then you're not going to be successful in the long term.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in those same instances, you can probably go into like pizza night or go into a sandwich shop and like enjoy what you guys are there for.
The
Like enjoy
experience.
the experience And also, partake in pizza, but you don't have to go all in and go crazy with it because you understand.
The whole pizza.
Yeah.
And ruin the occasion of what it was for in the
Right.
first place.
Yeah. The
you're
occasion is
obsessing
the
about
family
the food.
night. That's great.
How have you seen your performance change in the gym?
So I follow a program online. I recently did a strength program. But what's interesting enough that I kind of want to touch base on is even when I was going into a fat loss phase, I remember in my head, again, this is another mindset shift. I was like, oh, I'm going to be eating less. So my performance. And I remember Jonathan being like, no, you can keep pushing yourself. That doesn't change even when you're in a fat loss. So again, that mindset, oh no, I can still go, as hard as I can just because I'm not eating, as much. It's still there. I've definitely seen myself harder. Weird, but again, that mindset change of no, I can do more for myself and maybe others. You get stuck in that no, this is all I can do. But I can tell fat loss or maintenance where I've been able to push probably in a lot of different areas in the gym. I can feel today I was able to do 40-pound dumbbell rows, which I've been dabbling in, but this time I could do it consistently. Mm-hmm. So that mindset shift too, that I can, do more, whether it's fat loss or it's maintenance.
I like what you said there. I think we placebo ourselves into thinking oh, I'm going to be eating less. Here goes my performance in the gym. So much of that is just what's going on in our mind. And if you can continue to push yourself in the gym, then you're giving your body the stimulus to make all the work that you're putting in with your nutrition pay off. So that's why I think it's so important not to just give up when you're going into a fat loss phase.
I can still remember when I was in my head, I was oh, okay, we're going to be eating less. And you were no, you could still go. You could still push yourself. I'm yes, I can.
I think I got ahead of you and I bet you're thinking this. So stop thinking that and start thinking this. Because I've been there before.
Just from an outsider's perspective, because you guys are working together for a year, it's really cool to hear you guys talk about this. And it seems like you're able to go in and just really learn from the experience. You're going to have a whole year of basically education that you're going to be able to take with you for the rest of your life, not only in the nutrition side, but like you said, also in the training side of okay, I'm eating like this so I can push here in the gym. And it just seems like you're able to learn a lot about yourself during this time.
I think it's cool that we kind of came up with a plan to periodize this thing out from the get-go. We haven't stuck to that plan exactly, but we spent a dedicated time in fat loss at the beginning. Then we spent some time at maintenance. Then we went back down into fat loss. And then what I'm saying is I think you really took advantage of this time to learn how to change your nutrition based on your priority at the time. So now, do you feel like you can go on and repeat this process after this year is over?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I've learned tenfold. When I went into my fitness journey originally, it was just I was focused on the scale and I was I've just got to lose this weight. And then it was I got there and I was well, now what? Whereas this full year has been fantastic in teaching me okay, you can do this fat loss phase. You don't need to be there forever. Here's how you can get back into maintenance. And then if you do maintenance, doing another short fat loss phase. I think it's something that I can take from here and be able to do myself, but also hopefully, help others, if coaching is what I decided to jump into. Eventually. It's just been a huge, huge learning experience. And I think the coaching that I got was beyond what I had imagined. I think the being able to check in every day was fantastic. You were just kind of a text away for any answers or any questions. I kind of don't want to let go. So I'm kind of having a hard time with that.
I think anybody listening to this that is thinking about doing coaching with anybody, what I want you to hear Stephanie say was she got a lot out of this experience because she was an active participant in it. Yeah. I think sometimes if we feel like we're messing up or we're off track or whatever, there's this tendency to kind of want to pull back.
You kind of shut down and don't want to let them in on what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
And how in the world can somebody help you if you pull back?
And that's usually the times you need that coach the most, and they can probably
So if you're listening out there and you're you're in that place with your coach or you've been in the past, the way to fix it is to be an active participant in the process.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to touch on really quick, we've probably already gone over 5 minutes, but
I know.
We've talked a lot recently, and this is something Blakely and I talk about a lot, and we've integrated this into our whole coaching philosophy, is that tracking your food in an app is not the end all be all, and it's certainly not a sustainable way to maintain weight loss. There has to be all the mindset work go in. There has to be a fundamental understanding of habits and nutrition and all that kind of stuff. And we've talked a lot recently about pulling back from tracking. How has your mindset around tracking changed in the time we've been working together?
I think tracking is helpful to some point, and especially for myself. I got to the point where tracking ended up being more of a stressor. Like I couldn't trust myself outside of that, if that makes sense. One, I'm consistent, like I basically eat the same foods 99% of the time. So knowing that the habits I've already established were there. So I didn't need to track every day. I didn't need to be weighing everything because I knew like, okay, this is, my salad I eat it. I don't need to weigh the tomatoes and cucumbers. So I think being able to trust myself. So we've been able to pull back, on those tracking days. I get where in a fat loss, every day is more because there's kind of a deeper goal there, I guess, per se. But where in maintenance, it's like, okay, this is what I eat. I don't need to track it all the time. And even on those days where it's like, okay, I've ate something a little different, it's fine because I know where the priority is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that
I like hearing that. Okay, last question. What is something that you still see other people struggle with that is something that you feel like you've made some progress on? And how can somebody start to get over those kinds of things?
I think there might be a couple. So I could go on the scale weight part. I think for a lot of women, we tie self-worth to that almost too much. So one, knowing that you're worth more than that scale weight, but also knowing that if you're gonna weigh yourself daily, like knowing it fluctuates for a million different reasons. It could be the time of the month. It could be stress. You could have slept crappy the night before. Like all these different variables of why it'll go up and down. So kind of pulling away from that piece. I think people being scared of carbs is still a big one that I wish people wouldn't be afraid. Fruit's good for you. You eat the banana.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, there's been times where we've had you eating over 200 grams of carbs or close to it per day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think recently.
Stephanie is proof. You can eat carbs and still achieve your goals.
And she's rode 40 pounds now, so
exactly.
do the math.
I did, yeah. Okay, so here's an example. I'm rowing 40 this morning. I had a banana. I had a big banana before I went. Like I had these, full carbs before I went and did the exercise. Going back to when I started the maintenance, like I was one of those in the beginning, a couple years ago. I was like, I just need to lose this weight. I have this number on the scale I want to reach. And then, like I said, I got there and was like, well, now what? Like I still didn't really have the, ideal body in my head. So kind of getting away from that piece and learning. I know I said this before, like maintenance has been fantastic. I love being able to and I think it's hard for a lot of people, women especially, they think that that's not progress. Like, well, I'm not going anywhere. Like the scale isn't going down. A lot of women should start there. Like just start in this maintenance, just eat and, see where you go. And then maybe eventually address the fat loss phase.
Yeah. There's so many things you can improve in maintenance, your strength, your performance, your relationship with food, the diversity of food that you eat, learning new skills with cooking, like all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. And you said the relationship with food. I think that's a huge one. Going back to when we were talking about like bad and this food is bad and this food is good. It's like, no, there's just food.
Yeah. And like you said in the beginning, prioritizing what you're eating throughout the day. That's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You can enjoy pizza on a Friday night, but then 99% of your diet is fruits, vegetables, things that make you healthy outside of the scale or even like your appearance. For me, these last 2 years of my physical and my blood work has been phenomenal. So like focusing outside of that piece of like, what's your like inner health? Like how's that going? And, really focusing on that piece too. Cause in the end, I always tell my kids, like, I'm going to be the 90-year-old lady still, might be 20 pounds, but I'm still going to be like pushing 20-pound weights and going on mile hikes and, being annoying to them. So
I love it.
That's my ultimate goal.
That's what your kids are going to remember, not that mom weighed 125 pounds or something
yes.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sure. Like I said, you are active on Instagram pretty regularly with posting stuff about your workout and your mindset and stuff. So how can people follow along if they want to?
Oh, if they want to follow me. Yes, I am on Instagram. It's My Life on Fitness. So yeah, come follow me, see foods and workouts and my inner thoughts.
You always give the real deal. That's what we appreciate about you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this. That concludes 15 minutes of 5 minutes with Stephanie.
They've all been about 15 minutes, so don't worry.
All right. Thanks, Stephanie.